Hey y'all, DJ Short from Roto World here, back for our usual fantasy baseball Q&A. We've moved it up an hour recently to noon Eastern time. As previously 1 p.m. Eastern, but it's noon Eastern at this point. Moving forward, hopefully hitting you right in the sweet spot of lunchtime here, at least on the East Coast. Our West Coasters just starting the day right now. But either way, I will be here for the next 30 minutes or so to take your fantasy baseball questions. Can be waiver wire pickups, trades, anything. Feel free to shoot it my way. Already have a couple of questions here. I'll give you some time to fill out the room here. And as we look forward to today, some interesting stuff going on. Bobby Miller called up by the Dodgers. Of course, all the injuries in their rotation right now. We saw Gavin Stone last night. Not a great outing, but again, pitching is the Braves, not an easy assignment. Bobby Miller tonight. I think he's worth a pickup. Is he worth pitching against the Braves tonight? And Spencer Strider, probably not. So I would be careful about using him in this matchup. Still uh, interesting to see what he can do, not just tonight, but moving forward. Yuri Perez is pitching tonight as well, the Marlins phenom prospect pitcher. He's going up against Austin Gomber in Colorado. So, do you start him tonight? It's a fair question. I am looking forward to seeing Jorge Soler against Austin Gomber tonight. I tweeted something out earlier about Jorge Soler. So let's see. Let me bring it up here. This season, against left-handed pitching, Jorge Soler is 13 for 32. So 406 with 7 home runs and 2 doubles. That is a 1638 OPS. I'm all over that tonight. Um, if you use FanDuel, there is a pretty cool promo they do on Tuesdays. It's Dinger Tuesday. So Soler is my pick tonight. Not a ton of profit on going with that one, but I feel like you gotta roll with that one. The numbers, it's a high percentage play there. So Soler in Coors Field against the lefty who has not pitched well. I'm all over that one. Looking forward to that game for multiple reasons. So again, I'll be here for the next half hour. Feel free to throw me your questions here in the chat, and I will get to as many as I reasonably can in the next 30 minutes. So let's get started, and we'll start with this question here: should I hold, trade, or release Andres Jimenez from the Guardians? I know Jimenez has not played well so far this season. He was kind of someone that I liked, but didn't fully believe in what we saw last year. I think the speed was something you could at least prop him up value wise, but we haven't even seen a ton of that. He's 7 for 8 in stolen base attempts. He has just 1 steal over the past 30 days. He's hitting 188 in that time. I think he's better than that, obviously, but it's a tough one. Chances are you use the top 100 pick on Andres Jimenez in your drafts. I think at a certain point that's irrelevant. I don't know if we've quite reached that point yet. I think he's a bench, but in most leagues, he's probably still a hold. We'll wait for this to even out a little bit. So it's tough for sure. But he was a name that I wasn't super high on coming into the season. Second base is not great either. So there's that. Next up, John, is Royce Lewis considered a must-add stash in all formats in a 10-team head-to-head points league, or is he considered deeper formats only? So Royce Lewis, former #1 overall pick of the Twins, has had injury issues, ACL, coming back from that right now, his second ACL repair. He is mashing in AAA right now. I don't think he's eligible to return until the end of the month. He was on the 60-day IL, so ruled out through the end of the month. But he's playing so well that I think he will be up. He will be playing third base for the Twins regularly, probably as soon as he comes up. Yes, I think he's a must-add and stash in all formats. That's of course assuming you have the bench slash roster flexibility, pop and speed. He showed a little bit in his first chance in the majors last season, so I am into it. I think he has a chance to be an impact performer for sure. in mixed league. So I'm into that. Brian with a question: Kimbrel versus Miguel Castro rest of season. Kind of a depressing question. I would go with Castro. I think the Phillies have too many quality options to assume that Kimbrel will be the guy here. Alvarado's on his way back. I think Castro, if he pitches well, like he's going to be tradable also. But I think he's probably the guy there. And the Diamondbacks could be a team that they hang in it long enough that Castro sticks with them all season. You know what I mean? I think Kimbrel's on the back nine. I think the Phillies have too many options. I don't think they would stick with him long if he struggles. So, yeah, I just think you roll with Castro, even though it's you know not super exciting, and that's to be fair. That's putting it mildly for sure. Before we move on here, just a quick reminder to download the Roto World app. You can receive breaking news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster, which is a really cool feature. You can get push messages if they're out of the lineup, whatever they do that night. Lots of good stuff. Get the latest injury updates, player news, which is our bread and butter here at Roto World. Much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in your app store today. So go ahead and check that out. Download it. It will make you a better fantasy player for sure. Up next, Christian Encarnacion Strand, Ellie De La Cruz, and Jordan Walker DJ. I'm holding all three on a shallow bench. That I feel like could impact your ability to compete right now. And assuming you're in a league where you are competing right now, I don't think that's a great idea. I think at the very least, you know, pick two, And with the way the Cardinals are going, I don't know. I'm not super confident about what Walker is going to do this season, which is so weird because he made the opening day roster. The Cardinals are a very confusing team. Ellie De La Cruz, we'll see because Matt McLean's come up and the numbers haven't been amazing so far, but I think he's going to play a bunch. Encarnacion Strand, it's probably just a matter of time for him as well. We'll see. It's weird that I'm in the position to say I feel the least confident about Walker, but yeah, the Cardinals are a weird team, and they're playing better, which is good for them. But I don't think you should have three prospects sitting on your bench in a shallow league. It's just gonna hinder your ability to compete right now. Mitch, is Jared Walsh a better first baseman rest of season than Josh Bell or Matt Mervis? I have all three right now. I'll eventually need to drop or trade one. If I had to guess today, just my gut feeling, I would put Bell, Walsh, Mervis. That would be my order. I was on Bell coming into the year. He was actually a favorite of mine. I wouldn't say like drafting him like super aggressively, but I thought it could be a top 10 fantasy first baseman, being the cleanup hitter, middle of the order type bat with some good table setters there in Cleveland. It just hasn't worked out so far this year for the Guardians. In many ways, that offense is just not good. But there's the talent is there. We've seen as recently as last year that Bell can be a quality contributor, not a 30-plus homer guy, but decent enough power, gets on base, can knock in some runs with that hasn't changed. The table setters I still think are potentially there. So I still have Bell number one. Walsh, if he's healthy, can be interesting, and we'll see about Mervis. The numbers haven't been all that great so far, but we will see what he has as time moves on here. Okay. Clayton Kershaw, you can never know what's going on with someone's personal, real life stuff. Was placed on the bereavement list. So let's just, put that aside. You can't even quantify that. I know he struggled a bit recently for sure, but he's not someone you're dropping, certainly. I'm assuming he'll be back this weekend to start against the Rays, and the Rays are so good that if you want to bench him, I get it, but you could be missing out on a good start. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, control wise, he's had 2 starts this month where he's walked 3+ batters. In April, he didn't do that a single time. So, unless there's some kind of injury we don't know about, I'm willing to give him some leash. You know what I mean? I think if he does pitch this weekend against the Rays, you probably bench him. But beyond that, I wouldn't go too nuts. Matt, who should I have in my lineup in a roto category scoring league? Francisco Alvarez or JT Realmuto? Real Muto is the answer still for me, just because he can do so much across all categories. I've been really encouraged by what I've seen with Alvarez over the past month, just looking so much more comfortable at the plate. I actually just tweeted about it this morning. See if I can pull it up here. Sorry with the delay. Do. So over the past 30 days, Francisco Alvarez is hitting 279 with a 362 on base percentage, 5 home runs, 4 doubles, 590 slugging percentage. The strikeout rate has gone down. He's even drawn some walks recently, and he also looks good behind the plate. Um, Very good in terms of framing. Has a good arm. I know there's been some stolen bases against him. That's not all on the catchers these days, but I do think Real Muto, you know, there's the track record, there's the speed behind the play, what he can offer at the catcher position. I wouldn't overthink it too much. I'm certainly encouraged by what we're seeing from Alvarez, but I wouldn't go too crazy so far on that one. How would you rank these StatCast standouts? Suzuki, Naylor, Vargas, Beatty, Wade Jr., Brian De La Cruz, and drop half Bohm or neither. So Lamont Wade is hurt. So I believe he hurt his thumb last night. I'm not sure of the status of that so far. Really love what I'm seeing from Brian De La Cruz. Gets Coors Field this week. That's huge for him in the short term. Vargas has been a little better over the past month. Still not maybe the power you want to see, but a little better. Naylor, kind of more of a platoon option. If I had to put these in order, I'd have Suzuki first, Beatty second, Brian De La Cruz third, Naylor fourth, Vargas fifth. Wade Jr. is kind of, I'll take him out of the mix here until I know a little bit more about the injury. But he may even be in that category anyway, last in this group just because of the platoon sort of thing here. But he's looked good this year for sure. Ellie De La Cruz worth an NA position stash. So this is the cool thing about Yahoo League. So if your league happens to have an NA spot, it doesn't count against your bench. So that means you can, keep these at least, assuming you at least have one, maybe you have two, but even one is really helpful. It doesn't count against your bench, so you should always have someone in that spot who's presumably on their way to the majors at some point. And yeah, if Ellie De La Cruz is out there, you should stash him because you just never know. I feel like we're going to wake up one day and all of a sudden De La Cruz will be on his way to the majors, and his potential is, sky's the limit there for De La Cruz. Of course, you can't count on these sort of things to happen every time, but he is a name that everybody should get acquainted with in mixed fantasy leagues for sure. Matt, who should I have in the lineup in roto scoring category league? Gallo, Rizzo, Taylor Walls, or Esteury Ruiz, or Josh Lowe. Choose 4. So Lowe is a yes. Man, this is tough. It's tough. I'm going to look at Gallo's recent stats here real quick. So Joey Gallo recently, I believe he has cooled considerably, which makes it harder. So he's hitting 185 over the past 30 days. He's hitting 175 in May, 23 strikeouts. That's tough, man. I don't think you can. I don't think you can put that in your lineup. So he would probably be my bench out of that group, to be honest with you, unless you've got something really balancing it out. Another DJ here with a question. I have Witt Jr. struggling. Should I pick Eugenio Suarez? So no, I would not do that. I would stick with Witt. I know didn't he get dropped to the number 6 spot on Monday? I want to say I saw that. That's not great. I think one of the thing that's been great about Witt, despite the struggles, is that he does get that volume and it helps with the counting stats. We've said that about Whit Merrifield over the years too in that Royals lineup. So I think it's probably just a matter of time before Whit straightens things out. The batted ball data suggests that there's more coming here. There's some progress here. You'd like to see the plate discipline improve. That's I think the key to him taking a big step forward. But he has been hitting the ball harder this year. The speed is among the best in the game. Suarez has his own flaws. You know what I mean? Yes, the power presumably will be there, but he has his own flaws in terms of his approach. So I'd rather go with the youngster than Suarez. Johnny, is it time to put Mountcastle and Austin Riley on the trading block? Recommendations for who to target at first and third base. I mean, I don't know about that because I don't I don't think we've seen the best of Austin Riley so far this season. You know what I mean? And chances are you paid a big price for Riley in drafts this year. So if you are trading Riley, you're trading for probably less than what you put in. So I don't know. I think if you hold on to at least Riley, you're probably going to get better production moving forward. I think better days are ahead for Riley. Mountcastle, I could go either way on him. Maybe see what you could do as far as that's concerned. But yeah, I think you might just be better off holding, especially with Riley, and see what happens here. Is Matthew Liberatore worth keeping, or should I pick up Louis Varland instead? Great question. Again, the Cardinals are so confusing to me. They use Liberatore out of the bullpen over the weekend. I know they've said, or at least was reported, that he's going to stay in the rotation. I don't really trust the Cardinals based off of the way they've been conducting themselves this season. So I think if you want a bankable pitcher you can use every week, Barland is probably that guy. I think Liberatore deserves a shot. He's a lot more intriguing this year with the improved velocity. So I like him, but I think Varland is the more bankable, reliable option at this time. That's not all Liberatore's fault. Casey Schmidt has been pretty solid for San Francisco. You like him or Jorge Mateo rest of season? I like Mateo just for the speed. It's going to prop him up. You know what I mean? Like there's a safer floor there. I know the May's not been good for Mateo. He's one of the best players in baseball in April, and May quite the opposite. But yeah, I think with the speed that Mateo offers, he's got the advantage there over Schmidt, who I like too. Maybe more in real life than fantasy. Patrick with a question: Yelich or Kelnick rest of season? Good question. I like Kelnick better at this point in time. Man, the turnaround that Kelnick has just been amazing. Hitting another bomb on Monday. You know, the batted ball data looks great. Like he's just straight up mashing the ball right now. The strikeout rate is down to more reasonable levels. 28.9%. It was 33.7% last year. His expected batting average is 284. So nothing he's doing is necessarily fluky. I think we're seeing him arrive. You know, 6 stolen bases too. Yeah, I would take Kelnick today. I think if we were doing a redraft scenario right now, Kelnick would be a top 100 player and he would deserve it, which is pretty cool for him to break through after all the hype, not just with the Edwin Diaz trade, but the call up and all the expectations associated with that. So, been cool to see his evolution so far this year. Just a quick reminder before we move on: Sunday morning means MLB leadoff. Watch exclusive live games all season long on Peacock. This week we have an awesome game, and I advise you to check it out. We have the Dodgers taking on the Rays, the best team in baseball. Potential World Series preview, right? Dodgers, good a chance as anyone. Rays, best team in baseball right now. I mean, these teams will be in the mix as we move along here this season. Great matchup. Catch it live this Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time I'm on the post game show uh, every week, giving my betting picks for the day. This week we had the Yankees and the Reds, and I hit on Luis Severino's strikeout total. I took the under. He threw just 75 pitches, so that cashed for me. That was a close one. Also cashed on Corey Kluber. Unfortunately, sorry, dude. He only got one strikeout. I took the under on his strikeout, so that worked out. Wilmer Flores, though, did not come up big for me. I had him getting 2 total bases. That did not happen against Jesus Luzardo. He did not come through for me, but still 2 out of 3, pretty good. Have more picks this Sunday. Let's make some money, huh? Next up, John, is Gunnar Henderson still worth holding on to, or is he worth dropping for one of these prospects possibly coming up? Royce Lewis, De La Cruz. Good question. I don't. I probably wouldn't do it for Ellie De La Cruz because we might be waiting a little bit. You know what I mean? I could see it for Royce Lewis. I could. I still think that Gunnar Henderson is really interesting, really exciting. But would it surprise me at all if Royce Lewis came up and outproduced Gunnar Henderson the rest of the way? It would definitely would not. So if you're just in this situation where Henderson is a daily headache for you in your lineup, maybe you regret it later. Maybe Henderson comes up and is, eventually not comes up, but maybe he bounces back at some point, is more worthy of his draft price. But I think Royce Lewis can fit a similar profile on fantasy rosters that you were expecting from Gunnar Henderson. So yeah, I don't think that's the worst move. I think we'll see Royce Lewis in next week at some point with the Twins. So I am excited about that. Will Varsho turn it around, or is Melendez a better catcher to use? So I think the good thing with Varsho, and I mentioned this in the spring, why I liked Varsho is that he plays the field and he plays really good defense. Uh, and that's a plus. It's going to keep him in the lineup. He's going to play every day. Now, I do think he's been a tad unlucky in terms of his batted ball data. 234 batting average on balls in play. It's not like he's striking out any more than he has in the past. So I wouldn't lose too much faith in his ability to be a solid fantasy performer when it's all said and done. His expected batting average this year is actually higher than it was last year. His expected batting average was 213 last year. It's 235 so far this year. I think things will even out for him, and he'll still be a useful fantasy player. We'll see the batting average perk up a little bit, and the counting stats will be there in the end. So I would rather have uh, Varsho than Melendez. Have time for a few more questions before I go here, but we'll answer a trade question. Dansby Swanson and Andrew Vaughn for Rizzo. Which side do you take? I would take the Swanson and Vaughn side. Now, anytime you do a 2-for-1 deal, you end up dropping a player too. So that's part of the conversation. But yeah, I think Swanson's should be solid moving forward. Vaughn is still making solid enough contact. I think that White Sox lineup is going to be better over the course of the season. Rizzo in Yankee Stadium, the power, of course, you like that, but injury history too. Wouldn't shock me if he misses some time at some point this year. So, yeah, I think the Swanson and Vaughn part is the better side of the deal for sure. Okay, say your first place roto team, and you rather have Cease as your fourth, fifth starting pitcher, or gamble on a trade for DeGrom. Hmm. I would rather have DeGrom. Now you're saying you would have Cease as your fourth or fifth starting pitcher, so that's assuming you have some pretty good depth at this point. I was down on Cease coming into this year. Just with the walks, I just there's too much potential for regression there. DeGrom has his own pitfalls. We know that. He threw a bullpen session Monday. He's on his way back, but it still could be a couple of weeks. But when he's healthy, he's the best pitcher in baseball. So if Cease is a luxury as your fourth or fifth starter, I think DeGrom is a luxury to be a number one type fantasy starter. So yeah, given where you are in the standings right now, you're not necessarily banking on Cease as being your top guy. I think that makes some sense. So definitely think about it. Couple of questions on Ahmed Rosario, who struggled to begin the year as well. A couple of them. I received offers of Adamas for my Rizzo and Swanson. Okay, you've got yeah. There we go. Someone dropped Ahmed Rosario. Does he turn it around and worthy of an ad? The thing about Ahmed Rosario, he this has kind of been a theme throughout his career. He is a slow starter. This is who Ahmed Rosario is. Uh, I expect him to do what he's done in the past, to match kind of the baseball card, and start to turn things around, show a bit more power. We've seen those kind of power numbers from him in the past. Is he going to be a 20 homer guy? No, but he's a double digit type of power producer. Already has 8 stolen bases this year. The past month hasn't been horrible in terms of batting average. I think we'll see more power. Uh, so it depends on who you're dropping, but yeah, I think he's a decent uh, pickup in a mixed league for the most part. Should I have Nico Horner or Taylor Walls in my lineup of a roto category scoring league? Not even really close for me. Nico Horner is the guy. I mean, he's the Cubs leadoff man. He ran wild prior to his injury. Uh, you know, good contact skills. Has the volume at the top of the Cubs lineup. I know the Cubs have struggled a little bit recently, come back down to earth, sort of coinciding with the Horner injury. But yeah, Walls has been useful too this year. Don't get me wrong. There's speed there, multi-position eligibility, but yeah, Horner is the pick for me. I don't think it's close at this point in time. So a couple more minutes here before I go. I blew it at the draft for starting pitchers, and I picked up most of the rookies looking for a spark. My starting pitchers are Darvish, Morton, Bybee, Varland, Bryce Miller, Yuri Perez, and Eduardo Rodriguez. Should I trade Trout for an ace? Yeah, I think what you're going to run into here is these young pitchers, or thinking late in the year, um, running into workload issues, running into innings caps, all of those type of things. And I'm saying that with Bybee, uh, Varlin Miller, Yuri Perez. I mean, it's all going to happen at some point. So then you're left with Morton, who I'm iffy on these days. Um, Eduardo Rodriguez, I still think he'll be respectable, but can he maintain what he's done? I'm skeptical about that. You Darvish is like the one you can hang your hat on. So I don't think it's a bad idea at all to trade Trout for an ace. That's assuming you have some depth. I'd say maybe include uh, one of these pitchers here to make it kind of a sweeter deal, like a two for two type thing. Um, so maybe you get an outfielder too. You know what I mean? I think it would make sense to trade one of these young pitchers as well as part of a deal like that, um, because eventually you're not going to have these guys. So just something to think about. Time for one more. Matt has another question here. Walls, Esther Ruiz, or Josh Lowe? Which one of these three should not be in the lineup of a roto categories scoring league? So let me just look at Ruiz's numbers recently. So Ruiz has actually he's been tearing it up recently. Only one homer, 38 to 8 strikeout to walk ratio. Yeah, the speed's there, all that good stuff. Um, but how much is that worth? Like what is he sacrificing on your roster? It's a tough one. He's kind of delivered, but not quite with the power. So a bit one dimensional. I think Taylor Walls is the tough part about the Rays is that it's kind of mix and match every night. So that can be a little frustrating for fantasy managers. He's also hitting just 210 against right-handed pitching. Does have 5 homers, but again, how much is that going to matter as the season plays out and there's more of a sample size? Will that change the Rays' decision making? So I think you have good choices, but I think Low is an automatic yes. It might just be who do you need? Like Ruiz is the better speed option but you are sacrificing there as far as plate discipline. So I'd probably go with Lowe and Ruiz and hope for the best there, but you definitely have good choices. So that'll do it for me this week. Remember to subscribe to the Circling the Bases podcast. Myself, Scott Pianowski. We'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday, for our Waiver Wire Wednesday episode. You can follow me on Twitter. If I didn't answer your question here today, I think I answered pretty much everything. But if I didn't get to your question, you can follow me on Twitter at DJ Short. Track me down there. I'm happy to answer those questions. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week at noon Eastern for our usual fantasy baseball Q&A. Take care. Good luck this week.